Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, Alliances. Yeah, it's a Voyager episode. Alliances on It's All Been Trucked Before. Hey, how about you ally with us? Ally with us? Form an alliance with us on Patreon. Patreon.com/IABD. You get our extra episodes, bonus episodes in between seasons. You get the whole catalog. You also get the mothership. It's All Been Done Radio Hour, and that stuff is a lot of fun as well. And that is a cornucopia of stuff, a lot of stuff there. And you can see the video of us doing this stuff. So you get some extra stuff, even if it's just Keith's background. That is worth the small price alone. Lots of different tiers. Depends on how much you want to get involved. But it just depends on what kind of alliance you want to form. Just like we're going to talk about here, alliances, Voyager, it's all been trekked before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your skeleton crew is here.
This is Steven.
Olivia James. We would love to make alliances with our other co-hosts, but they are busy, apparently.
They're very busy.
So we are still just the two of us. What are your first impressions of alliances?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was further developing what's going on with the Kazon and all that stuff. You know, when it first started, right off the bat, I'm like, is this real? Is this some kind of exercise? Did we jump right into the action? And then I was surprised to find, and it was I only saw, this was just one source on Wikipedia, one reviewer site that thought it was one of the worst episodes of Voyager, or worst episodes of season 2. I thought it was the worst episode, which I didn't feel that way, but
No.
I thought it helped broaden that quadrant. Seska's back, of course, so we get to learn more about them. It's interesting. They're still making their way home, but they're still kind of accumulating all this stuff, and like how much is going to go with them as they make this journey. I think that's actually an interesting sidelight of the thing. And Neelix was great, so I'm enjoying Neelix a lot more. Again, I'm a Kes fan, but I like the way Neelix is, and as you said, Neelix is going to be cooler is not the right word, but he's going to become more likable, not annoying every week, and he's definitely not my annoyance this week. So yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I was very surprised to read, this, whatever. It's all subjective, but so yeah, I liked it. I don't know if I loved it, but I liked it.
See, I think part of the problem is that it's such a Kazon episode.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like the Kazon. I don't like the Kazon.
Yep.
Seska was basically wasted in this episode, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
She didn't have anything interesting to do.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I ended up agreeing with you that I thought it was a pretty good episode. I dare say maybe one of my favorite episodes of the season so far, because it got into these morality questions, and there were no right answers. I mean, Janeway was right, but I definitely came around to Chakotay and Tuvok's way of thinking that she was wrong. And then she ended up being proven right anyway. Mm. And so I don't know, it was a very interesting episode that makes you think more than anything. And I don't think it really does come down with a clear answer on who's right in this, even if Janeway's the one who ends up being proven right. Yeah, it was just a thinker. It was in the tradition of those great thinker episodes of Star Trek where you wrestle with a morality issue. Are your principles more important than survival? Of course not, but then also, what do you sacrifice in order to survive, and when does it no longer become worth it? And yeah, I think all of that's legit and whatever. So, the beginning of the episode, Voyager's in real bad shape. We catch up with them in the middle of a Kazon battle, and they, engines are out, everything's out. If the Kazon didn't flee in that moment, they'd all be dead. It's just, we know that they're, in dire straits because they're so far from home, but I don't know that we get the full impact of how bad it is until a scene like this, even though then I felt like the rest of the episode kind of cheapened out actually showing that extending past the scene.
Yeah, it's that thing we talked about, where they're like, well, we are an exploration vessel, but it doesn't, I feel like they kind of allude to it in passing, but there is an element of, why don't we just run? We don't want to stay here. Let's just keep moving. But I think somebody makes the point essentially of
the Kazon aren't going away. They're going to keep following us for a while. It may have even been Janeway made it.
But it's also like, how big is Kazon's area of space that they're still being followed? Like, it doesn't, to me, like, if you're traveling home, you should have left the Kazon by now. It's been a year.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It doesn't take a year to cross the Federation. It doesn't take a year to cross the Klingon Empire.
Yeah.
How big is the Kazon's empire?
That's a good point.
So, yeah, I don't really get that part of it. And again, I think we've talked about this before. I don't get how the same Kazon keep catching up with them if they're supposed to be going forward and traveling.
Right.
It's almost like they're just hanging out in their area of space, which doesn't make any sense. But
it's kind of a thing we've talked about a lot of, where Keith and I talk about the spaceships being right in front of each other, and space is really not that way. But so maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but I guess I know a lot of the Kazons are going to be around a little bit longer. And just to back up, I totally agree with you on Seska. As always, I was excited to see her. And then I was like, we get one big reveal from her, which we can talk about when we get there. But other than that, I'm with you. It's like, I'm dealing with all these other jerks instead of Seska. Give me a little more Seska, but.
Yep. Agreed. I mean, for this story, had she not been there, it would have felt a huge glaring omission we would have been upset by.
Yeah.
So it's not like.
Fair point.
It's not like you could exclude her from this. It just, that doesn't mean they found the way to do it well.
Yeah.
So, So Chakotay tells Janeway that she needs to start thinking like the Maquis, which I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. Like, he's like, we've been out in these dire straits. You haven't. You should listen to me here. And, trust that we've had some experience handling this stuff, which totally makes sense.
Well, and it is that this episode felt like, and I know you've talked about it several times, just the idea of like, we should have more Maquis Federation friction.
Yes.
Like, and I'm glad we're revisiting it and finding out it's still there, but yeah, it would have been cooler earlier, but yeah.
I think this would have been a great 5th episode of the series.
Right?
Well, you're still dealing with the immediacy of the Kazon, and you're trying to sway them all in, but now you're in a situation where it looks like your methods aren't working.
Yep.
Yeah, it does feel like it stretches incredulity, that it's this late. Incredulity. That it's this late, and it's still that same theme.
Yeah.
So there's a memorial for the people that died, because they've lost a number of crewmen in these interactions with the Kazon, and the Maquis want to give the tech to Kazon, but Janeway says it's not a democracy, which is fair. Like, you have to have a leader that makes the decisions at the end of the day in this type of situation. The ship wouldn't work as a democracy. I think the newer version of Battlestar Galactica did a really good job with this kind of thing, where, they had an elected representative, and there was a big question of, when do you listen to the military? When do you listen to your democratically elected leaders? How much say do the people get in such a dire situation? That show did that better. But I liked that. I also like Chakotay, though, saying, okay, but isn't there a middle ground between your stance and their stance? Like, Chakotay was very much the mediator of, let's find a compromise here. And that totally makes sense as an approach. It's the approach that makes the most sense, honestly.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think he makes it. Well, she says if you're suggesting we abandon our principles just because we're out of hailing range, but he's not saying that. He's just saying,
no.
I think there's, and actually that's what I wrote down is like, is this kind of a time to change a little bit? I mean, I think we can adjust.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned, I think the episode ends with her saying, well, we've got nothing else but our principles or something like that. It's like, well, okay. But I think we are left with a sense of like, she's saying that, but are we sure she even believes that? But
that's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah. So Chakotay says that Janeway's imagination is limited by Starfleet protocols, and I agree. I do think she's keeping herself stifled and not considering all the options or looking at the full picture because of her tunnel vision. Not saying her tunnel vision is necessarily wrong. This episode clearly thinks it's right, but
yeah,
anytime you get in that tunnel vision, I think you're risking making mistakes because you should be considering the fuller picture. Even if you ultimately come down on the side of, I need to stick to my Starfleet ideals, you at least need to consider the other options. Tuvok talks about Spock aligning with the Klingons for peace as an example of why Janeway should do peace. Obviously, the events of Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. And what a cool moment where Tuvok says, I was against what Spock did. Yeah. I was wrong.
Yeah, I just summarized that with good Tuvok stuff. I thought it was another great Tuvok scene.
Great character development because, right? Yeah. So then we had a scene where Neelix speaks up helpfully, talking about the Kazon and everything, which was great.
Yeah, I wrote Neelix with a good idea.
Yeah. Again, to keep him away from Kes. Kes is in this episode, but barely, and nothing to do with Neelix, which is good. Yeah,
she pops in, she's there in sickbay, which makes sense, and then she's there near the end. I don't even know if she had a line. But
I think she's got a line in sickbay, but then she's also in like the conference room scene with the main crew. And I don't know why I was surprised to see her there, maybe because she had nothing to contribute to this, but her and Neelix did stake their position early in the series that, hey, we're going to attend these things, so...
Yeah, but Neelix, I love this whole episode. I was like, okay, this guy I like a lot. Like, he seems like the guy who kind of knows things. He didn't get annoying. Yeah, I just thought he seemed knowledgeable, gregarious, and I really like Neelix in this episode.
Even when he ended up being proven wrong in this episode, which he kind of was, he rolled with it in a mature way that helped the situation and did not exacerbate. Like, he did what you would expect somebody to do in a tough situation. He didn't cower and whine and complain about it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So, I did really appreciate that when they're talking about who they should make alliances with, that Harry Kim sarcastically suggests Seska, and then Torres is like, no, that's actually a good idea.
Right? That's when I was like, you got me now. You got me.
I thought they did a really good job having the different dynamics of the different crew members, because of course Chakotay can't possibly agree that it's a good idea. But Torres, who has been betrayed by her and has reason to be mad, like, talks some sense in the moment. And honestly, I do like seeing Harry Kim get smacked down when he gets a little bit too full of himself or feels like he's acting a little too seasoned, more than he deserves to. So I appreciated that. Neelix goes to some seedy bar. Yeah. Was that music playing? It was some weird sounds.
I did not pick. I picked up on the dancer. I did not pick up on the music, not surprisingly. So yeah, staying on brand, everybody.
I mean, atonal is putting it generously. It was some weird noises that I was like, I think this is supposed to be alien music, but it doesn't sound anything like music to me. Neelix tries to trade information for sex, which is a little bit outside the bounds of what we'd hoped for him, but also not totally, not sex with him. Sex with, helping him get sex with somebody else.
Right.
While it was a little bit outside the bounds of what I'd hoped for from a Starfleet officer, I don't think it was outside the bounds of what we would expect from Neelix in this position and with his background, so no problem with that. But then he's arrested and imprisoned with families. I thought at this point, because I did not remember this episode, even though now in retrospect I'm pretty sure I saw it, did you assume that when we saw those families imprisoned, it was like, oh yeah, no, this makes total sense. They're going to align with them because they're actually the good guys that have been taken advantage of, and this is who are going to be our allies going forward?
I usually I'm totally in the dark and but I was not surprised when the flip came later. I wasn't like, oh, I knew this was going to happen, but I definitely was like, maybe because I've been the one who's been duped. I feel like for a while on a DS9 and on the Voyager side, like, oh, I think that makes sense. Oh, they got me again. This time I had my guard up, and maybe just because maybe it felt a little more overwhelming that way. And I appreciate them subverting expectations. So I did like that.
They got me. I didn't see the twist coming. I was just like, oh, this makes sense. This is a basic Star Trek plot. And then I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that they took a swerve because I think we've seen this episode before in Star Trek where it doesn't take the swerve. So
I did write down caves. Wow, great. That's awesome.
So Maj Kalo, when they're trying to talk to him, basically says, like, we need to exchange crew or else it's a no-go. That seems... why do you think Janeway was so against it? Honestly, because I felt like it wasn't that ridiculous and ask.
I felt uncomfortable about it, but I don't know if I did write down her saying this meeting is over. I think I agreed with her, but I don't know that I have a good reason necessarily. But
she don't want to endanger her crew.
Yeah.
And I get why she doesn't trust the Kazon. There's reason for that.
Sure.
But they were going to offer their own people in exchange. Like, it wasn't
That's
just
true.
they were asking for Voyager hostages. And the exchange of hostages harkens back to medieval times, and that's how you assured, peace with your enemies and stuff. It honestly, I was like, that makes so much sense. I think she's being very unreasonable here with not even willing. I mean, as long as you get assurances and you set up protocols of what happens if they're broken. And again, it would have to be volunteer only. You couldn't just assign crewmen to it. But I really think, I would have liked to have seen Kim assigned to the Kazon, is what I'm saying. And if they killed him, oh well. I'm being anti-Kim. I'm not anti-Kim. I just don't think they've written him well lately.
I feel like we haven't seen much of him lately. But I will say that, like I said, I agreed with Janeway. But I think to your point, there is a little bit of, because she's always like, well, this is the way we're going to do it. We have to. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing of the principles. The episode is we have to stick with our principles, and it's like, yeah, but you're always the one dictating terms and not necessarily. Oh, sorry. What I think we hear a lot from her, and of course we believe her because we know her, we're on her side, but is trust me, and I'm with her, not trusting other people, but. Yeah, but again, our view is like we're the good guy. We're rooting for our people, if you will. So, yeah.
So we get the Maquis pushing back, and Torres has a moment where she's really defending Janeway against the other Maquis. The Maquis in this case are kind of embodied by Lieutenant Hogan, played by Simon Billing, best known for 7 episodes of Star Trek Voyager as first ensign, then Lieutenant Hogan. This is his first of the 7, but they are all this season except for one at the beginning of next season. So he's an ongoing. I don't remember what happens to him, but he is only through the season premiere next year as a reoccurring. But he's pretty heavily reoccurring.
Yeah, I didn't care. Excuse me, I didn't care for him. And I don't know if it's because, as we were discussing, like maybe his point of view isn't that far off, and it was weird to see her. And I guess maybe that's ideally part of the development is like, well, Torres is kind of like, no, I get what we're doing here. You obviously haven't bought in completely, but I was kind of like, well, shut up, buddy. And maybe it's just the way it was written. It wasn't nuanced enough or whatever enough. It didn't come off as like, well, hey man, what are we doing here? So yeah, but he ended up being my annoying part of the episode, my annoying thing for the episode, but
yeah.
He's completely wrong, but
yeah.
Simon's
also known for 2 episodes of Babylon 5, the movie The Thin Red Line, and 1 episode of Time Cop. He only has 16 credits, so Voyager really gave him a lot to do, because before Voyager, he just had a reoccurring part on One Life to Live, apparently, and then a 1 episode role in Sybil, and then he got this. So
wow,
yeah.
Thin Red Line's a good credit, and
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I haven't either, but I know it's supposed to be a great one.
So one question we had in this series is how the Kazon, who are apparently so backward, have these advanced starships. We find out in this episode they stole them from a race called the Trabe, and they're actually Trabe starships, not Kazon starships that we've been seeing.
It took me a couple minutes to realize they were saying Trabe and not trade. But then it became clear. But yeah. Did we like Mavis's the Trabe makeup?
Not really,
Mavis
but
specifically. I don't know if it's any worse than I just felt like it stuck out compared. Like I like the Kazon hair and everything they got going on. The Mavis's maybe it was just a one bad piece. I just didn't. It wasn't great. And again, maybe we're watching in HD now that it just looked, for lack of a better term, fake. But it just looked like, oh, I'm wearing this attachment as opposed to some of the other stuff. But just a little bit more.
So you mentioned Mavis, who's the leader of the Trabe. He's played by Charles Lucia, who's best known for Tank Girl, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Society, and 27 episodes of Days of Our Lives. He also will do a 1 episode stint on Star Trek Enterprise down the line. This is his only Voyager episode. So, yeah. He says it's his own people's fault that they were overthrown by the Kazon because they treated the Kazon like crap, which is part of why I think I trusted him. He was willing to be like, nope, I've had time to think about it. It was our fault. We were jerks. We got what we deserved. And I was like, okay. But he does talk about, like, it wasn't my generation. It was the older generation. So,
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I had my reservations early on, but I still was like, no, this makes sense. These guys are, and I was trying to think if there was a our Earth parallel that they were specifically. I don't think there was a specific one, but I think when the turn comes where it's like, well, yeah, they were the rich ones. They kept us down. Of course, they celebrated art and all that because they had time to do that. Which I thought was actually, I mean, it's simplistic, but it also is a nice turn, I think. So
yeah. So the Trabe are nomads without a home, and they've been that way for 30 years. Long time. So, of course, Janeway makes an alliance with them in order to go for it, because it seems like they're more reasonable than the Kazon and a smarter alliance.
Right.
However, we have a peace conference in which Seska, of course, before that blames Colin as sexism for ruining the deal they could have had. Which, I feel like that's getting to a boiling point here, that Seska's either got to, like, overthrow him or something, because it's getting... Cola's just keeping Seska down.
Yeah.
But, so they make the Trabe have made the conference a trap. Neelix got word there was a trap, but we didn't know who it was, and then we're all surprised to find out, well, Steven's not surprised, but the rest of us are surprised to find out it was the Trabe who set the trap, and they're going to try to kill all the Kazon. And Janeway tells them it's a trap, and then flees, and doesn't do anything else to help. I guess she has Voyager shoot the ship from orbit, but by then, like, they've already been shot up a bit. Like, Janeway should have beamed all of the Kazon up, right?
Right? That's what I felt. I was like, wait a minute. And I got she was beaming up Mavis because, we're going to, we're going to talk about this a little more.
Sure.
And actually, I thought that ship looked really cool. The assassin ship, or whatever you want to call it.
It was just really a Kazon ship, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just a smaller version. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it looked good. And
we saw that small version before with the youth that tried to kill Chakotay.
Oh, yeah. But I thought it looked good. Yeah, I was pessimistic when they started talking about peace. I'm like, I don't think there's going to be... I mean, the Kazons don't have peace with each other, let alone with other people. And then Janeway says, so someone wants to sabotage. She doesn't say sabotage. She says sabotage this conference.
Sure. Because she's lame.
Right. Yeah, and to get your thing about sexism, like, I was like, sexism aside, I think I see the Kazon point. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, Seska at some point is just to be like, I'm smarter than you guys. Or I know more. Well, yeah, I guess it's the same thing, right?
She needs them.
I did like her kind of... I mean, Seska's not going to back down from anybody, but especially when she's pregnant.
She kind of is, because she's biding her time. And she knows that she needs them, so I get why she's being a bit deferential. But I do feel like her patience is running out, and if they don't get it together soon, she's about to lay the smack down on them. So she's not content to just keep taking it long term.
I didn't do this extra set of research, and even though I finished, I finished watching these last night, so I had a little time, but not a lot. And I talked about this, I think, last week or the last couple weeks. All the silly names. I like when he's introducing every person from the Kazons. And I'm just curious how they came up with those names, but I didn't do that next step. I didn't get on this. What's the Star Trek Wikipedia? How am I?
Memory Alpha?
Memory Alpha, thank you. Yeah. And I feel, and I listen to the Star Wars Minute, and those guys talk a lot about a lot of the names on there, especially the more recent films. Abrams and those guys are just, oh, this is a person I know. A Tuckerization, that's what they call it. Essentially just moving letters around in a famous person's name. But yeah, I didn't take that next step, but yeah, they love those things. Oh, and just to back, and this is my last, I have two more notes. Somebody says, I think, and I can't remember who it is. It might even be Neelix. I wish I took the note and didn't go all the way through. But somebody essentially is like, hey, whoever says they got to leave the conference for a minute, they're the one.
Right.
and it's
Right.
very Godfather-esque. And I can't remember who said that, but and they were right. And I was like, yep, it's very Godfather, which
Yeah.
I appreciate. My only other note is my alternate episode, which is actual piece roll credits, and we jump ahead.
So my alternate episode, and this is a little far out there, and this is more of like if you're willing to take a big chance and change the premise of the show, I would have liked to have seen the Trabe and Kazon basically destroy each other or weaken each other so much that neither one can get a foothold and are like their species are doing really poorly. And Janeway, because she feels responsible for bringing down both civilizations and the after effects, Voyager has to stay and she has to run this region of space and try to rebuild both people. But that's a totally ambitious, very off the wall alternate episode.
I can't say I dislike that.
Well, I mean, anytime we develop this beyond what it actually is, it starts to sound interesting. Voyager should have got a little more. This episode was written by Jerry Taylor, which I think explains some of the emotional impact and some of the quandaries. It was directed by Les Landau, one of our regulars. We also met a character named Michael Jonas in this episode, played by Raphael Sabarge. He will be in 6 episodes as well. Most in season 2 with 1 into season 3. Okay. He's best known for Once Upon a Time, where he played the Jiminy Cricket character, the ABC, 47 episodes. The movie Risky Business.
Yep.
32 episodes of Murder in the First, and being a producer on The Bird Who Could Fly. He has 194 acting credits, including ones from 2025, like an episode of The Diplomat and some other stuff. Very prolific actor.
Yeah, I know him best from Risky Business and Vision Quest, where he played that. But Risky Business, he was kind of like the buddy who's kind of a jerk, but I enjoyed him in it, and he's a lot of fun in it. And then in Vision Quest, he's more of the more supportive buddy, I think, in that one. But definitely of my time, the mid '80s, and I obviously I think he does good work since then. Obviously, he's kept working, which is cool. But I was like I wish he'd become a bigger movie guy. I feel like he could have been and I guess maybe he has been 194 credits. He's definitely that guy to me, and a guy I loved.
It does look like Raphael has been more of a director and producer in the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
He's got like 11 directing and producing credits. But yeah, 2 new Voyager reoccurring characters in this, because, we won't see Carrie again until season 5. So we got some time until he comes back. But yeah, we had that mysterious call where Jonas calls the Kazon and offers to give him something. So we'll see. But apparently, Raphael almost turned down the role, and his agent said, don't turn it down. They're actually developing something on it. Just be patient. Take it. So, yeah.
I will also say, usually I tell you, do not go into the Wikipedia page. Go into his Wikipedia page, because when you get... Yeah. He teamed up with Ed Begley Jr. and I think Ed Begley Jr.'s wife with an environmentalist nonprofit organization. So, yeah. So... For those of you listening that are into the environment, I think you'll appreciate our guy.
I mean, I'm into destroying it. Does that count?
Well, that's an angle.
Just kidding. Obviously, just kidding. I study Ed Begley Jr., so I could do the opposite.
That's
the other guest star that we had in this episode was Larry Cedar, who played Tersa. Tersa was like Neelix's contact. Larry Cedar's best known for Deadwood. He did 24 episodes. 2 episodes of Community where he played Chevy Chase's father, Cornelius Hawthorne. 1 episode of American Horror Story, and 5 episodes of Law and Order True Crime. He has 214 credits, including 1 this year. He's 2 this year so far. He's still very much active in things, but he will do an episode of Star Trek Enterprise as well as a different character. And he was in an episode of Deep Space Nine that we already watched in season 2, an Armageddon game. He was Dr. Nydrum. So, yeah. My last note is Janeway and Voyager are left worse off at the end of this episode than they are at the beginning. And that's really disheartening, considering all they go through this episode, that they're ended up being left like in a worse position. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt bad about it.
Yeah, I think that's legit. Like, and I guess it gets back to where I kind of started. man, how are they not out of here yet? And I get they're like, well, we're gonna have to keep dealing with these guys, but yeah, it's not in a better position yet. It's not even Seska's fault.
No, and it's very much I don't know. It just the end where Janeway hangs on to her ideals at the expense of everything else feels so hollow because of
It,
the fact
it,
that they
it
end up in a
yeah,
worse position.
it doesn't feel as like good job or vindicating because early on she was my inspiration. And then I slid over to Neelix, who I really enjoyed this episode. And I just
Yeah.
thought, yeah, this guy's got it together. And, oh, I also loved his jacket. So whatever it is, and maybe it's because I feel like, and maybe, and I apologize, our guy who plays Neelix, whose name I should have down.
Ethan
Um,
Phillips.
what's that? I'm sorry.
Ethan Phillips plays
Ethan
Neelix.
Phillips, yeah. I feel like he and Armin Shimmerman are both short guys like me. So I feel like
They
their
are.
clothes would fit me. And I just also, they're maybe it's just, they're okay. So yeah, Ethan Phillips, 5'4". Yep.
Yep.
And hang on, Armin Shimmerman.
He might be even
Height
shorter.
comes up fourth. He is 5'6". Okay, he and I are about the
Oh.
same.
Okay, he's taller. Okay.
Yeah. But I love at least I love the jacket Neelix had on in this episode. And so I don't know. Maybe I should start looking for them out there. Because I would buy one of those jackets and I would wear it out somewhere. So
I mean, if it were possible, I'd switch you heights. Just offering right now. I mean, I'm not kidding. I absolutely would. I topped out at 5'11" and a half, but now I'm more 5'10" these days.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've shrank. But I would absolutely switch you heights. I would rather be 5'6" at this point. But for a number of reasons. But anyway. Let's get to the rankings of this episode. Who was your annoyance in Alliances?
Lieutenant Hogan, I think, our guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. It was just not written well. I get where he's coming from, but and I don't want to blame the actor, our guy Simon Billig, but
Yeah.
I thought he delivered. I mean, I get it makes sense, and it's like I said, it makes sense to some of the Maquis. Like I was with you guys for a while, but right now I gotta question this. And for Torres to be like, no, we don't do that. It's like, don't we? Isn't that the whole Maquis thing? Is to challenge. So
Yeah.
It was Mr. Hogan.
Fair enough. Yes, fair enough. I went with Maj Kala. He was just the way he was treating Seska. And like I said, I don't know why Janeway saw that as such a deal breaker. I'm against that, but I still think Kala was just being a jerk and squandering his opportunities in this episode.
He was my number 2 choice for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So who was you having a drink with?
I started one way. I started with Michael Jonas. Then I went to Seska. And then again, like you said, someone to use. Raphael Sbarge is I would love to sit down with Raphael Sbarge. And I'm not even sure I'm saying his name right, but
I have no idea. But
I would love to tell him how great he was in the movies I saw years ago. And I, seen him pop up here and there. Every time I see him, I'm like, that's my guy. So I would have a drink with him.
Fair enough. I originally had just written not the Trabe, because they would not be somebody I have a drink with. But I think after we discussed it, I'm going to go with Torres, because she seemed the most reasonable through this. I mean, this is the second week in a row I chose Belana Torres, but she was the one who said, no, why not Seska? I got my problems with her, but it's a smart move. She was also the one that defended Janeway to the Kazon, even while agreeing that there were some points to the Maquis, even though agreeing that there were some points the Maquis had. So I think Torres was underutilized this episode and was actually made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like the awkwardness when they're like, "Hey, Chakotay, what do you think about his partner with Seska?" He's like, which is the exactly correct response by him. But I'm with Torres and Janeway. Like, I don't know if that's the worst idea. Or
honestly,
Kim,
surprised Janeway jumped on it so quick.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah. So I that's a good exploring all possibilities. That's a good Spock throwback kind of thing. So yeah.
I wouldn't have minded had this episode been about them trying to come up in alliance with Seska and seeing how they could figure out how to trust each other after everything.
Right?
That would have been a good, moving story that would have given Martha Hackett something worthy of her time.
Yeah, like I said, I like this episode, but that's a really good episode.
Yeah. Who was your inspiring character in Alliances?
Our guy Neelix, him and his jacket.
Neelix?
Yeah, I really, and maybe it's coming in with low expectations for our guy, but I liked he's getting stuff done. He's doing his thing, so I appreciate it.
So it's been a while since I chose her, so I don't mind choosing Janeway. And the reason is that even though I'm not convinced she made the right decisions here, and she ended up worse off than she started, which is not exactly great, she was willing to consider things that went against her firmly held beliefs for the right reasons.
Sure.
And she was cautious, but she was also open-minded. And I think that's just a sign of a good leader. I liked her a lot in this episode. Ranking the episode, this has not been a good season. And even though there are definitely some things in this episode that I really didn't like, the Kazon being a major part of it, I do want to start relatively up a bit because the moral quandaries and things. And in a weak season, I feel like it is going to rank higher than other things. So if we're starting at the top, which I know it's not going to be number one, but the top right now is Resistance. That's the one where Janeway is rescued by Joel Grey, who thinks she's his daughter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that this being below that for sure. Sure.
Yeah. Not that it was... Not that that was like some masterpiece, but... And that's our number one right now. Below that's Projections. That's the Barclay episode.
Okay.
I think we're getting there now.
Yeah, we're pretty close. I could almost be talked either way, but let's go down one more.
That's kind of how I was feeling as well. So, but I do think we need to go down one. Below that is Elogium.
Okay. Tess in Heat, right? Yeah.
Yep. I think this is better than that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
so we found our...
Yep.
We found it.
Yep.
So we're putting it number 3 for the season so far.
Out of what, 14?
Yes.
Wow.
This is 14.
Wow. Yep.
Weak season.
It is, yeah.
Next week, Star Trek Deep Space Nine Crossfire. First Minister Shakar visits the station despite a threat of assassination, and he falls in love with Kira, much to Odo's dismay.
Aww.
Way to give it away in this hypnosis, IMDb.
Yeah.
Definitely should not have gone that far.
Started with Odo's feelings for Kira, and I was like, get me out of here. So I knew it was going to be a little bit about that. But anyway, but still. Come on, everybody.
Well,
stop.
I hate to break it to you, but that plot's not going away anytime soon.
I know. And I'm not...
That plot has legs. It's going for the run of the series.
I'm not necessarily mad about it yet.
I never loved it.
I know it's not your jam.
I think it gets less annoying as the series goes on, but it's going to be there the whole time. It's not going away. So, yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it after we watch it. After I watch it, I should say.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. I mean, Until then, live long.
And remember, whoever arranges the meeting, that's the traitor. And prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?